Yasodhanandana Bhadajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Bhavaraja Jaya Asata Sisi Vadesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namachar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sagaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Sri Radha Krishna Bhava Govida Shama Kunda Radha Koda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadiptam Ki Jai Ganga Jamuna Tulasi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai and Go Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschataresha Tarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 72, verse 22. Shri Sukha Uvacha Saurai Akriti Bis Tams Tu Prakosh Tair Njahatairapi Rajanya Bandhu Navigyaya Drishta Purvan Achintayat
Vacha
Shri Sukha Uvacha. Sukadeva Goswami said, Swarai, by their voices, Akriti B, bodily statures, Tan, them, too, however, Prakoshtai, by seeing their forearms, Ja, by bowstrings, Hattai, imprinted, Api, even, Rajanya, of royalty, Bandhu, family members, Vigyaya, recognizing, Drishta, seen, Purvan, previously, Achintayat, he considered. Translation, Sukadeva Goswami said, from the sound of their voices, their physical stature, and the marks of bowstrings on their forearms, Jarasandha could tell that his guests were of the royal order. He began to think that he had seen them somewhere before. Purport, the Acharyas point out that Jarasandha had seen Lord Krishna, Bhimasen, and Arjuna at Draupadi's Swayamvar ceremony. Since they had come begging in the guise of brahmanas, Jarasandha thought they must be low-class kshatriyas, as indicated here by the word Rajanya Bandhun. Jarasandha thought, these are surely members of the royal order dressed as brahmanas, but still I must grant their request for charity, even if they beg me for my own body. Purport, here Jarasandha reveals his strong commitment to charity, especially when begged by brahmanas. Indeed, the spotless glory of Bali Maharaj are heard throughout the world. Lord Vishnu, wishing to recover Indra's opulence from Bali, appeared before him in the guise of a brahmana and made him fall from his powerful position. Though aware of the ruse and forbidden by his guru, Bali, king of the demons, still gave Vishnu the whole earth in charity. What is the use of an unqualified kshatriya who goes on living but fails to gain everlasting glory by working with his perishable body for the benefit of brahmanas? Sukadeva Goswami continued, thus making up his mind, the generous Jarasandha addressed Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima. O learned brahmanas, choose whatever you wish. I will give it to you, even if it is my own head. The Supreme Lord said, O exalted king, give us battle in the form of a duel, if you think it fitting. We are princes who have come to beg a fight. We have no other request to make of you. Over there is Bhima, the son of Pruta, and this is his brother Arjuna, know me to be their maternal cousin, Krishna, your enemy. Sukadeva Goswami continued, thus challenged, Magadha Raj laughed out loudly and contemptuously said, all right, you fools, I'll give you a fight. Purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that Jarasandha felt inner satisfaction because he thought that his enemies had been humiliated by having to dress like brahmanas to approach him. Thus, the Acharya understands Jarasandha's mind as follows. O weak ones, forget the botheration of fighting. Why not just accept my head? By dressing yourselves as brahmanas begging charity, you have made your heroism set like the sun. But if someone like you have not lost your courage, I will give you battle. The Acharya finally points out that the goddess of learning intends the phrase Amarshito Manda to read Amarshito Manda. In other words, Lord Krishna and the Pandavas are Amanda, never foolish. And that is why they chose the best tactic for doing away once and for all with the cruel Jarasandha. But I will not fight with you, Krsna, for you're a coward. Your strength abandoned you in the midst of battle, and you fled your own capital of Mathura to take shelter in the sea. As for this one, Arjuna, he's not as old as I, nor is he very strong. Since he is no match for me, he should not be the contender. Bhima, however, is as strong as I am. Having said this, Jarasandha offered Bhimasena a huge club, took up another himself, and went outside the city. The two heroes thus began battling each other on the level fighting grounds outside the city. Maddened with the fury of combat, they struck each other with their lightning bolt-like clubs. As they skillfully circled left and right like actors dancing on a stage, the fight presented a magnificent spectacle. Purport: Jarasandha and Bhima here demonstrate their expertise in the use of clubs. Thus it can be understood that both fighters were fearless and steady, even in the rage of battle. When Jarasandha's and Bhima's clubs loudly collided, O king, the sound was like the impact of the big tusks of two fighting elephants, or the crash of a thunderbolt in a flashing electric storm. Purport: the translation is based on Prabhupada's Krsna. They swung their clubs at each other with such speed and force that as the clubs struck their shoulders, hips, feet, hands, thighs, and collarbones, the weapons were crushed and broken like branches of arca trees, with which the two enraged elephants furiously attack each other. Their clubs thus ruined, those great heroes among men angrily pummeled each other with their iron-hard fists. As they slapped each other, the sound resembled the crash of elephants colliding, or harsh thunderclaps. As they thus fought, this contest between opponents of equal training, strength, and stamina reached no conclusion, and so they kept on fighting, O king, without any let-up. Purport: some acharyas include the two following verses in the text of this chapter, and Srila Prabhupada has also translated them in Krishna. Evam tayor maharaja yudyato saptavimsati dinani niragams tatra sukhridvanishi tishtato ekada matuleyam vai praharajan vikrodara and the saktoham jarasandam nijetum yudi madhava. Thus, O king, they continued to fight for 27 days. At the end of each day's fighting, both lived at night as friends in Jarasandha's palace. Then on the 28th day, O king, Bhima told his maternal cousin, Madhava, I cannot defeat Jarasandha in battle. Lord Krsna knew the secret of his enemy Jarasandha's birth and death, and also how he had been given life by the demoness Jara. Considering all this, Lord Krsna imparted his special power to Bhima. Purport: Srila Prabhupada writes that Lord Krsna knew the mystery of the birth of Jarasandha. Jarasandha was born in two different parts from two different mothers. When his father saw that the baby was useless, he threw the two parts in the forest, where they were later found by a black-hearted witch named Jara. She managed to join the two parts of the baby from top to bottom, knowing this, Lord Krsna therefore also knew how to kill him. Having determined how to kill the enemy, that Lord of infallible vision made a sign to Bhima by tearing in half a small branch of a tree. Understanding this sign, mighty Bhima, the best of fighters, seized his opponent by the feet and threw him to the ground. Bhima pressed down on one leg with his foot while grabbing Jarasandha's other leg in his hands, and just as a great elephant might break the branch of a tree, Bhima tore Jarasandha apart from the anus upwards. The king's subjects then saw him lying in two separate pieces, each with a single leg, thigh, testicle, hip, shoulder, arm, eye, eyebrow, and ear, and with half a back and chest. With the death of the Lord of Magadha, a great cry of lamentation arose, while Arjuna and Krishna congratulated Bhima by embracing him. The immeasurable Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sustainer and benefactor of all living beings, coronated Jarasanda's son, Sahadev, as the new ruler of the Magadhas. The Lord then freed all the kings Jarasandha had imprisoned. Purport to the Prabhupada writes, although Jarasandha was killed, neither Krsna nor the two Pandava brothers made a claim to the throne. Their purpose in killing Jarasandha was to stop him from creating a disturbance against the proper discharge of world peace. A demon always creates disturbances, whereas a demigod always tries to keep peace in the world. The mission of Lord Krishna is to give protection to the righteous persons and to kill the demons who disturb the peaceful situation. Therefore, Lord Krishna immediately called for the son of Jarasandha, whose name was Sahadev. And with due ritualistic ceremonies, he asked him to occupy the seat of his father and reign over the kingdom peacefully. Lord Krishna is the master of the whole cosmic creation, and he wants everyone to live peacefully and execute Krishna consciousness. After installing Sahadev on the throne, he released all the kings and princes who had been imprisoned unnecessarily by Jarasandha. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 72nd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Slaying of the Demon Jarasandha. So, this is all just a description of the battle that took place between Bhima and Jarasandha. And because they were equal in strength, one could not defeat the other. So it's described how for 27 days they fought during the day. So, a very long battle. And then finally, Krishna gave the hint by which Jarasandha could be killed. So that was that he had to divide two parts of his body. Because that's how he was born, in two parts. So it's some sort of weakness there. So they joined it together and he became whole. And if you pull them apart, and then he's finished. So that was his weakness, and this was revealed by Krishna. So in this way, the purpose was fulfilled. That is, in the previous chapters, it described how the kings wrote a letter and described how they were imprisoned, and they begged Krishna to get them out. At the same time, the Rajasuya sacrifice had to be performed, but in order to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice, opposing elements had to be defeated. So, by the killing of Jarasandha, both purposes were fulfilled. The kings were released because they had begged, so Krishna responded to that. And Bhima defeated Jarasandha so that the Rajasuya sacrifice could be held to glorify Krishna. So in this way, the problem was solved very nicely. So interestingly enough, in this story we find that Krishna does not kill the demon, but Bhima kills the demon. So sometimes we see that even though the purpose of the Lord is to establish Dharma and kill the demons, sometimes he delegates this to his devotees. So this is one case of doing so. The other case, of course, is when the battle of Kurukshetra takes place. The Pandavas are the main fighters there, not Krishna. He doesn't fight at all. So not only the Lord engages in the killing of the demons, but he empowers his devotees, and he entrusts his devotees to do this activity also. So, in any case, we cannot criticize the Lord by saying he is violent or that he kills or whatever. The motive of the Lord is not to kill people. It's not violence. He doesn't like violence. And Prabhupada states this very clearly in the purport of the last verse, that the whole purpose is peace. So, in order to have peace, in some cases, there must be some violence in this material world. Those who oppose that peace, they have to be destroyed, or at least controlled. So we see that is the case with Krishna. He doesn't always kill the demons. Sometimes he simply defeats them or controls them. So that we see in the case of Kaliya. Krishna did not kill Kaliya, but he arranged so that he couldn't disturb anyone anymore. So sometimes the Lord doesn't kill anyone. He simply makes sure that they don't cause any problem. When they're such a problem that as long as they are present, there will be disturbance, in that case, the Lord may have to have them killed. So he can do so, or he can do so through his devotees. So for a higher purpose, this can be done. But no loss for the demon. If the demon gets killed by the Lord, he gets liberation. Or he may go to Vaikuntha also. So this shows that the Lord doesn't have any hatred of these demons. And the Lord, like anyone else, a reasonable person, tries to avoid the violence as much as possible. And when it becomes inevitable, then he has no fear of committing that violence. So we see that when the battle of Kurukshetra was to take place, Krishna tried to stop the war. He tried to make a compromise, but it didn't work. So then finally, Pandavas are forced to fight with the Duryodhana and his brothers. So the whole goal of Krishna is to have peace. And he also doesn't want a maximum of violence. He wants a minimum of violence. But when Krishna was present on earth, that minimum consisted of wiping out a lot of the demons, because otherwise there could be no peace. Therefore, the intention of the Lord is to reestablish a proper system of government, proper system of justice, so that the majority of the people can live peacefully. So that system is the system authorized by the Supreme Lord, in which Supreme Lord is recognized. So some of the demons may have good systems also, but no recognition of the Supreme Lord. And that is why they are rejected. So Duryodhana or Jarasandha may act dharmically in some respects, but they refuse to recognize Supreme Lord. So here we see Jarasandha said, I cannot fight with Krishna. He's a coward. So he doesn't really believe he's Supreme Lord. He just finds some fault in him, so he won't fight with him. So the demons don't recognize the Lord. Nevertheless, we see Jarasandha so dedicated to giving charities. So some aspects of Dharma he may follow, other aspects he will reject. So sometimes we may think that because these persons are following some aspects of Dharma, very, very, very good. Appearance is very good. But actually, ultimately, because they don't follow the whole system, it's completely useless. Therefore, appearances are one thing, but to follow correctly Dharma is another thing. They may have some superficial appearance of following Dharma, but actually, underlying principles, they're not following Dharma at all. And of course, when they do follow Dharma, it's for their own benefit, for their own profit they're doing so. So their Dharma is, we could say, pretend Dharma, artificial Dharma, not real. So the true king and the true leader, he understands the principle of Dharma and that it includes worship of the Lord. And therefore he'll institute that process and set an example for all people. So Yudhisthira is a good example of that, because his whole purpose of establishing himself as king is to glorify Krishna. So not only he's establishing proper Dharma, he's going beyond that, and he's excessively, or not excessively, but extravagantly glorifying Krishna, announcing Krishna's greatness to everyone. Therefore, that type of Dharma is the proper Dharma. To get that position of establishing a king who is following proper Dharma, there may have to be battles. There may have to be fighting. At this time, there was not much opposition. Jarasandha was opposition after that was finished. Yudhishthira was installed as the king. But then later on we see more demons came, more opposition, so eventually they had the battle of Kurukshetra. The problem was not completely solved. There were more demons. And therefore Krishna had to somehow do this duty. But we also know that after a certain point, after he killed Dantavakra, he retired and he didn't fight anymore. So the killing had to be done by other persons after that. But he retired at a certain point. So therefore sometimes the Lord does it himself. He establishes the proper principles, and sometimes he lets the devotees do this. So the devotees may be good kings, but they're also devotees of the Lord, so they're establishing the real dharma. So the ultimate purpose is the restoration of the proper ruling system, which includes recognition of the Supreme Lord. Why? Because that will give the most long-lasting benefit to everybody: peaceful existence and spiritual progress. So to do that, sometimes there must be some violence. If there's great opposition, then it has to be counteracted. So that is what Krishna and the devotees are doing. They're not indulging in violence for violence sake, but only to establish the proper principles that is the will of the Supreme Lord. And of course it goes on throughout the day of Brahma. Continually this dharma is established.
Well, we see that in the case of other demons, Lord Krishna instantly heals. But in Jarasandha, 21 times he just let him escape. He could have killed him instantly, but why did he delay his healing?
Yeah, we see that actually they caught him the first time and then they let him go. So it is something like it's described how in the story of Nrsimhadev fighting Hiranyakasipu, then he would catch him and then he would let him go, then he'd fight again. And it's described as like Garuda playing with a snake. So he'll let him go and then he'll catch him again. So he had a little fun in fighting with him. So we can say the same thing. The Lord likes to display his fighting spirit sometimes, so he may delay the annihilation of the demons so that the fighting spirit can be displayed. So not only the Lord takes pleasure in that, but also it gives some pleasure to the devotees as well. And it also gives some satisfaction to the demon that he gets to fight for a long period. Otherwise the Lord can annihilate him in 1 second, and then the demon doesn't get a chance to display his powers or to think that he has some power. So by prolonging this whole incident, by not killing Jarasandha and letting him attack, he actually gives Jarasandha a chance to display his foolishness and his powers or whatever many, many times. But at the same time, ultimately, the Lord finally has to annihilate him somehow or other.
Also, maybe by doing this, he's bringing more demonic kings, so he can defeat them also. But many demonic kings came to support Jarasandha, so Krishna could assemble all the kings at one time and kill him. This can be a reason?
Well, it looks like this due to circumstances they hadn't gathered together at that particular time. It's not, I don't know the actual reasons, but it's afterwards we find finally that Duryodhana and his brothers got together and they made some alliances. So this is what caused the problem later on. So it appears now they were pacified, but later on they took the other side. And then we see their true colors, and therefore battle took place and they were all destroyed.
When it's mentioned Jarasandha was born of two mothers, how to understand that? He was born of two mothers?
Half and half of it? I don't know the actual story, how that took place, but...
Jarasandha's father had two wives.
Oh. Why would they have two halves, though?
Yeah, maybe.
Why? Any particular reason why two
I
halves?
think it's quoted from Harivamsa or something like that.
It also appears that in case of Bali, he gave a word, he kept it up. Here, when they approached Krishna, Arjuna and Bhima approached, he said, even I am willing to give my head to you. And then when they actually asked for the charity, he said, I will not do this, I will not do this, I will do only with Bhima. Yeah. So does it appears that he hasn't kept up his word, though he said at the first place.
Well, the whole intention of coming there was to make him fight singly, with one person, rather than with a whole army or whatever like that. So that desire was fulfilled on the part of we want to fight with you. So, of course, they could have insisted 3 of us will fight with one person, but that's actually not a fair thing. So they had to choose one. So we can say that he's the one that chose who to fight with. That's all. Maybe that was his condition, but nevertheless, they didn't oppose it. Also, no one opposed it. So in that way. It was, let's say, a satisfactory response on the part of Jarasandha that he agreed to fight with one of them, but he chose the one to fight with. That's all.
If I understand properly, Krishna's main purpose is, one of the main purposes is to establish peace. On the contrary, the devotees are not concerned about peace also. Narayana, they are willing to go to heaven, hell, anywhere, but be conscious of Krishna.
Yeah. Well, this is a general statement. We must have a peaceful existence for the general population. So the Lord is responsible for that. And then within that, then one can cultivate spiritual life nicely, generally. However, process of bhakti is such as that even if it's not all peaceful, you can still practice bhakti. But that's not so for the other processes, karma, jnana, and yoga. If there's no peace, then you cannot establish a varnashram system. You have to have a proper, stable kingdom and the whole ruling family, etc. And it has to go on for generations in order to establish that type of kingdom. And that way, the people get food, shelter, etc. And the population is happy. So for that purpose, the general dharma is there. But that's not, the general dharma is incomplete in itself. There must be some spiritual aspect also. So that's why it has to include worship of the Supreme Lord. So this is a proposition or a statement for, let's say, population in general.
Time and again we see that without Krishna's blessing, nothing is possible. Here, even without Krishna's help, it is impossible for Bhima to contract Rasada.
Yeah.
Krishna's blessing, nothing else.
Yeah. Because Krishna is all knowledgeable, then he had knowledge of the way in which Jarasandha could be killed. But Bhima didn't know that, so they keep on fighting. And Bhima also realized that, because I can't really kill him. Hey, we're equal in strength, and we'll fight. But I can't defeat him in any way because we're equal. So that is when Krishna gave the hint to him.
Jarasandha attempts 18 times to Krishna. Okay. So we see that Krishna is given 70 times chance to Jarasandha. But we all know that Krishna is everyone's heart, and without his sanction nothing is possible or nothing happened. So here, if Krishna wants, he would have changed the mind of the Jarasandha. But here we see he didn't do it.
Well, you say that about any demon. But the Lord, by his presence, could inspire them to change their mind or whatever, but they don't appreciate the Lord. If there is some possibility, fine. So we see that as the case with Bali. He changed. And of course, the Lord was very joyful that happened. He never forced him to do that, but by association with the Lord, then he actually changed. These demons didn't. 18 times Jarasandha saw Krishna, but he didn't get enough purification to see him properly and understand his true spiritual form or anything. He's still, even here, he's right in front of him and he's criticizing him as being a coward. So he sees him face to face. So in spite of contact and even continuous or many times seeing the Lord, still it wasn't enough to influence him because of his profound evil nature. Yeah. Well, it's slow. The greater the demon, the slower it is. So in the case of Shishupala, it took him many years before, by constant meditation and hatred, finally he got purified. And then the Lord killed him. And he went to Vaikuntha. So, because it is contact with the Lord with animosity, not with bhakti, therefore the process of purification is very slow.
Because Shishupala's absorption purified Shishupala. Was it actually purifying Shishupala? Shishupala's absorption, was it purifying?
Yeah, over a long period, because he meditated on the form of Krishna and he chanted Krishna's name. So he got purified, but it took, many years.
Also, you explained regarding this Yudhishthira's intense desire that he wanted to see that Krishna is glorified, and he was saying it's like the quality of a true leader that he should be confirmed that Krishna should be glorified. But sometimes we see the devotees community also, sometimes devotee keeps Krishna aside and they want to be glorified. So how to see this? Don't be with that idea, although they think this all happening because of Krishna, but they want that devotees to be glorified simultaneously with the Krishna.
What, devotees?
Yeah.
Well, that means they have impurity. So we see an example of a great devotee is Yudhisthira. He doesn't want to get glorified at all. He wants to glorify the Lord to the whole Rajasuya. He doesn't care about anything for himself. So one who wants that glorification for himself, that indicates some impurity. So he's not at the highest level. That's an anartha.
But I say that the second stage, like Krishna is a devotee, because you cannot separate Krishna and the devotees. Because of the devotees, Krishna did through the devotees only. So here, can you go to devotees, there is Krishna also only Krishna?
Well, the credit, on Krishna's part, he wants to give credit to the devotee. But the devotee never becomes proud of that. But it's just the nature of the Lord that he likes to engage the devotee and he likes to glorify the devotee. On the other hand, the devotee wants to glorify the Supreme Lord. So we get but of course, Krishna never becomes proud of being glorified either. And the devotee also doesn't become proud of being glorified. In fact, it makes him more humble. So we find the greatest devotees are the humblest. So all the devotees, Radharani is the most humble of all. Of course, she gets the most glorification from Krishna also. And she's also the most humble. So if devotees become proud, with material pride, they have material pride, then this is a symptom of their impurity or their anartha. So it's like the weed in the, cultivating bhakti when we get that.
Sometimes even when Yudhishthira completed his Rajasuya, the many sages, many great kings, they glorified Yudhishthira, but they don't know that it's all Krishna's plan. We see at the end of the Rajasuya, glorified Yudhishthira, that have done wonderful Rajasuya, it's wonderful, and everyone is very happy. But here see these devotees, they don't see here Krishna, those who glorify, they see only the Yudhishthira. So can we say that in their part it's wrong or right?
Well, if they're devotees, they will obviously see the hand of the Lord in everything. Now they will also glorify the devotee because that's also part of bhakti. So the Lord is also pleased by glorification of the devotee. But they're not glorifying Yudhishthira for his power or his money or his display of wealth or whatever. They're also they understand that they're glorifying him because he's a devotee of the Lord. So they never separate that glorification from connection with Krishna.
Perform the service, expecting to be glorified.
No, then there's a material thing. Yeah, there's a material attachment there.
Shambharam's question, like Krishna says, "Mat bhakta pujanika." I always worship my devotees.
Yeah.
Devotees know Krishna's already told that, so I'm telling the others, please worship me.
Yeah. Well, the devotee doesn't do his bhakti so that the Lord can worship him. In fact, he wants to avoid that as much as possible. And particularly in sadhana, then many devotees will, as a sadhana, will avoid that worship or avoid that praise or whatever. They will hide from it or flee from it. because they know it's a danger for their advancement to be attached to position or power or fame.
We find that even the devotees, when they contribute for some annadana or prasad, if the name is not announced, they will be very upset. Like I said, even the Karmis taking donation and just keep quiet. Especially when devotees give and their names are not as expected, they become it's very difficult to understand.
So that is attachment again.
In the context of Sishupada, just a clarification, any contact with Krishna is supposed to be purified. From the time of his birth, he has been criticizing Krishna, except for the boon that Krishna awarded to his mother, that if he crosses beyond the limit only, then I will chop off his head. If he has been criticizing, he was always saying, if he has been purifying, why was he constantly going to that number and stopping it? And one time only he went ahead of that. Any contact with Krishna is supposed to be purified. And Maharaj said that Sishupala was being purified. But he was constantly going on, he was checking his number. Up to 99 he checks, and then after that he doesn't, which means he was constantly, if he was purified, he should not have been criticized.
No. Well, this was an opportunity for the Lord to do something better for him. So therefore he took him to Vaikuntha. So that's a greater advantage than simply, making him into a devotee. So he made him into a devotee, plus he took him to Vaikuntha. That was the ultimate result. Now, externally, he still looked like a demon, and he was criticizing up to the last moment. We can say that more or less is a external thing, because internally, actually, he had improved. But still, there was something there. But then finally, when the Sudarshan chakra touched him, then he was complete.
Purification wasn't visible this time.
No.
Regarding this, Yarasana born to two mothers. The Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, Text 9. Prabhupada gives in a purport. He says that his father, King Siddhartha, was also a prosperous and powerful king of Magadha, but he had no son. Although he married two daughters of the king of Kashi, being disappointed in not getting a son from either of the two kings, the king, along with all his wife, left home to live in a forest for austerities, but in the forest he was blessed by one great rishi to have a son. And he gave him one mango to be eaten by the two queens. The two queens did so, and they were pregnant soon. The king was very happy to see the queens bearing children, but when the right time approached, the queens delivered one child in two parts. The two parts were thrown into the forest, where a great she-demon used to live, and she was glad to have some delicate flesh and blood from the newly born child. Out of curiosity, she joined the two parts, and the child became complete and regained life. The she-demon was known as Jara, and being compassionate to all the childless king, she went to the king and presented him with a nice child. The king was very happy and pleased with the she-demon, wanted to reward her according to her desire. The she-demon expressed a desire that the child be named after her, and thus the name of the child was surnamed Jarasandha, or one who was joined by Jara, the she-demon. In fact, this Jarasandha was born as one of the parts and parcels of demon Viprachiti, the saint by whose meditations the twins bore the child was called Chandra Kaushika, who foretold the child before his father died.
Okay, so it was one mango in two parts.
Each took one part.